Well, good evening, folks. Welcome to another evening with Sunday Night Flight with Kazaki Flyer 66. And tonight finds us in the country, back in the country of Burma. And we are at VYMD, Victor Yankee Mike Delta. And we're parked up here, as you can see, in one of our favorites, the F4U Corsair. Tonight we're going to chase the Burma Road. From here to Lashio, it's a railroad track, series of railroad tracks, and from there, it's an actual road. It's a basically it was a one lane road that led from Lashio in Burma to the city of Kunming in China. It passed several cities on the way in China, but it was the destination was Kunming. And for 6 months, until it became untenable, this was the lifeline for China for many years or for many months. All of its oil or fuel, ammunition, whatever vehicles it got, came through here. So instead of temporizing anymore, let's see if we can get the bird started here. Okay, first off, we want the battery on, radio master on, instruments on, fuel pump check. I'm going to open my cowl flaps here. Lights are on. Get all the lights on here. Fuel tanks to auxiliary. Or in this case, external center. Okay, prime the engine. Let it hold that for about 5 or 6 seconds. Meanwhile, we can go over here and turn the magnetos to both. Okay, come over here, turn the primer off, flip the cover up, lean out the cockpit and yell, "Clear, prop," and press the starter switch. Lucky us. Okay, now what we want to do is turn around, bend down here. And we want to move the wings to spread. Wait for it. As the wings come down, wait till they come down and get fully locked. We want to hit our locks here in the cockpit. Check that our tail wheel is free and clear to rotate. Clear to the left. Clear to the right. We'll be using runway 35. We're trying to, anyway. Make sure our brakes are not set. Start adding a little power in. While we're taxiing here, we do have our cockpit open. Looks like we need to get a hurry on here before it rains. Gun sight on. It's just for looks only, but let's see if we can still add this after starting out the engine. We want to. We've got the fuel tanks checked. How about rockets? Close the table. And we've got our rockets loaded. Let's continue on our promenade to the runway. We've got some mountains to cover, and we're going to climb up to about 10,000 feet. Ooh, that looks like a vicious little storm coming. We may have to change the weather just so we can see what we're flying over. Since what we're going to try to fly over is a ground feature. Just my luck, it'd be hopefully it's not a monsoon rain. And here we are at the end of runway 35. Going to get ourselves turned down the runway here. Oh, we're going to be taking off right into the teeth of it. Get ourselves situated here on the runway. Going to cut off our fuel pump, cut out that noise. Okay, we're going to lock our tail wheel and go ahead and close our canopy since we're flying directly into the rain. Now let's adjust our seat. Oh, goodness. All right. I'm going to give it one notch of flaps. This is our flap indicator, this little bar right here. You can see we're at 10 degrees flaps. So as the man says, hang on to your hats, boys. Power coming in. Here we're starting our roll. We want about 45 to 50 inches of manifold. Just keep her steady. She's shaking from the stall. Up we go. Gear coming up. And flaps coming up. Weather is horrible, but this is Mandalay in Burma. Okay, now that we're airborne, I hate it, but we're going to pause for just 1 second. We're going to change the weather here. If we're live, we're going to come off to a preset. Well, that's gone. It was there a minute ago. My Rex, totally unpredictable. So we'll just take a few clouds. And there we go. And unpause. Okay, let's climb here. We're going to pull out our little tablet and plug in our GPS system from it. Which is also hooked into the aircraft as an autopilot. Okay, climb us to 10,000 feet. Do it again. We're going to climb at 500 feet per minute and not stress the engine. We can see the railroad below us there before it heads off into the mountains. The river below us is the Irrawaddy River. And between the Irrawaddy River and the Salween River gorges, you won't find a more rugged area to fly in the world. My ear fell out. There we go. I can monitor everything again. Check our map, make sure we are on course. We are on course for our first stop of Lashio. Get in here and check our instruments. Pull our manifold pressure back to about 32. Set our RPM for 2,000 or 2,100. Up we go. Now we can look at our map. Terrain off. Topographic on. At this airspeed, it's predicting an hour and 55 minutes to Kunming. Even though it's autumn and everywhere else on the planet, here in Burma, this is tropical jungle. One of the places we're looking for up here is the Salween River Gorge. Which is on the other side of Lashio. I did some research on the Burma Road is when I was getting ready to do this flight, and to find something that follows the actual route of the Burma Road, there are no maps that actually recorded it. They recorded it in a general way, but they didn't record it as an actual road. Thousands upon thousands of Chinese and Burmese workers worked for months to build it. Here we are at 8,000 feet. What we're going to do is reach down here. Set our supercharger to low. Pull back on our manifold pressure. cylinder head temperature is dropping. So we're going to close our cowl flaps, hold the heat in, this first stretch they covered all this with railroad. For the most part, the railroad is still there. It's been improved and added to over the years, but the actual railroad is there. Which, considering how up and down this countryside is rather remarkable. Now look at, it's on little nav map, you can see it. Technically the railroad is just off our right wing over here. You can see the line there as it runs to the north. That's here in this area right here. Something I'm going to have to get is a little patented plastic finger pointer. So just in case you can't see the mouse. We're at 9,920 feet. We'll be starting to level off now. Our ground speed's 281 knots. Indicated airspeed of 240 at the moment and climbing. We level off, our airspeed's coming up. Set our mixture here, at least as well as we can. The mixture is very sensitive in this aircraft. It's either full or off. Because there, it's where it should go, right there. Keeps wanting to try to cut itself off. We'll hold it right there. We'll just have to run a little rich. Okay, our first checkpoint is at Lashio, which is 73 nautical miles away. That's the end of the railroad line. So all the goods that went into China could ride the rails as far as Lashio, but from there they had to be transshipped to big trucks and driven all the way into China. They didn't just settle for a straight road like the Romans would have built. Oh no. This one wanders back and forth and up and down and back on itself for dozens and dozens of times. But for now, we're just pacing the railroad. Okay, we are coming up on a river gorge where you can see the switchbacks of the road below us. You can see how many times it comes back on itself as it goes down to the bridge at the bottom over the river. And then it starts the whole process coming back up. Comes out of the gorge and goes up to this little village up here and then continues on its way. You can see where the railroad bridge was down there. In the sim, it's not well represented like it should be, but that's a very high trestle bridge. Here you can actually see the railroad as it travels beside the road for a little bit. And of course, you can hear the air intakes from the Corsair. The whistle comes from these air intakes along the front edge of the wings. And anytime you're over about 260 knots, she tends to make this whistling noise, which picked up her nickname, the Whistling Death. Checking our instruments here. We're level at 10,000 feet. Our engine's getting cold. The other gauges are all in the green, but the cylinder head temperature drops like a rock. We're going to do a quick check of our center fuel tank here. Oh, we've only used 15% of our fuel. We've got a long way to go before we have to switch tanks to another drop tank. This tank is the one we're on right here. This big center tank. From there, we'll balance back and forth between the left and the right, and then we'll go on the internals, which are inside the wings. and actually behind the cockpit here. The other fuel tank is ahead of the cockpit. That you can actually see where the fuel tank is. It's right here where this white tape is. For many months, they had the problem of fumes escaping the fuel tank and bothering the pilots. So they tried all kinds of things to seal up the panels and the fuel tanks to keep the fumes inside. And they finally ended up on a predecessor to duct tape to help keep the fumes out of the cockpit. Ooh, a baked-in cloud. It's a shame they never got around to doing a satellite improvement package for Southeast Asia. Let's hope that the 2024 version of the sim that's going to be coming out will have one. This is too beautiful a countryside to have this kind of mismatched satellite tiles. Have we lost our railroad tracks yet? I'm not seeing them, but then we're trying to look through baked-in clouds and bad terrain. There's a canal dam back there with a couple of locks in it to make the river navigable for at least a upriver for a few more miles. Hey, there's the main road, and there's the railroad. We're 30 miles out of Lashio. Many famous rivers, we're actually going to be crossing many of the famous rivers of Southeast Asia who have their headwaters up here in the highlands. The Irrawaddy, the Salween, the Mekong, even the Yangtze is up here before it meanders its way towards Shanghai. Now, if we were a brave soul, we'd have dived down and be flying up the valley. But this is an aircraft ferry transfer. Matter of fact, Corsair doesn't even belong in this part of the world. Corsair's a Navy aircraft. It belongs over the water. Well, let's see. 21 miles out of Lashio. must have picked up. Yeah, we picked up some ground speed somewhere. It's 310. We're doing 310 knots ground speed, which leaves us an hour and 15 minutes to Kunming. We can take care of our engine and make sure we don't misuse our fuel. But on the bright side, at least we're not in the rain. Which live weather back at Mandalay, that was one surprise storm. When I started the sim before my broadcast and got parked right, the weather wasn't that bad actually. That storm just kind of popped up and moved in. That's pretty, the one sunlight glinting on the water down there. One minute the scenery is horrible and, well, computer generated. The next it's beautiful and satellite data. Okay, we're coming up on the city of Lashio. Rub my eye a little bit. A little bit of leftover allergy. If you don't suffer from hay fever, you're a blessed. Because I find hay fever one of my most as debilitated as I am. Hay fever is about the worst. Okay, 7 miles from Poshan, or from Lashiao. Then from there, it's on to Poshan. There's Lashio below us. Much bigger city than it used to be. This used to be the end of the line for the railroad. The concrete strip runway here. And a golf course. Golf goes everywhere. And from Lashio, now we're turning toward Poshan. Which is 148 nautical miles up the road. The Burma Road. This was a one-lane road that had to do two-lane road service. They would gather the trucks in convoy types, like trains, and drive them north in groups, and they'd pass the empty trucks coming south. They weren't stupid. They kept, like this stretch, you can see this valley ahead of us. They kept the road in the middle of that valley as much as they could. real problems were river gorges and the actual rivers themselves. These people were, well, miracle workers to build such a road in such a short time. You can almost see the echoes of it down in the road below us. See how curvy it is? I can control the camera. And it doesn't help that a lot of the names that were used to be used for these area or towns and villages along the Burma Road have changed with usage over the years. I've tried to match them up as best I could for this flight plan. But that doesn't mean that I got it all right. There were several villages I could not find. I had an old map, and I could not find the equivalents on a modern map. One thing that's nice about this big Pratt & Whitney engine is it's so easy to fly and comfortable. The prop is huge though. It's a 13-foot diameter prop, which is why they bent the wings. Make the landing gear as rugged and tough as possible, and to fit this huge propeller on it, they bent the wings so the landing gear could have the structural toughness to make carrier landings and operate from rural and country airfields, unimproved airfields, as it were. See there below us, looks like if that's the remnant of the Burma Road, it took off a little bit to the west of us there. Probably trying to avoid this gorge ahead of us. Which probably means a good surveying job. Don't build through the gorge, go around it. But yeah, this is our flight for this week. We started it several weeks ago and then couldn't do it in one run, so we split it up into two. The squirrels bit us and we got distracted and did a couple of weeks of other things, but decided to come back to it and finish the trip of the Burma Road here. The actual Burma Road is 1,080 something miles long, at least from Lashio to Kunming. And later in 1942 and 43, to avoid the occupation of Rangoon and areas around there where the influx of supplies had come from, another influx of supplies came from the Indian town of Lido. They built basically an add-on to the Burma Road from Lido to the border town on the Chinese border of, I can't even pronounce that word. I'm not even going to try. And of course, it's only Chinese on my map. Let me see if I can look this up right quick. Okay, the road went from Lido in China to Xinhuayang to Warza, Mamti, Bamo, up to Manam, and then crossed the border on the maps. It's called Wanting. There's no such place now on the maps. But we're getting be close to the Chinese-Burma border. We're about 15 miles or 10 miles from it. And then from there to Hoshan, we'll pass close to the city of Mangxi, which is Zulu Papa Lima X-ray. We want to keep our aircraft in view, but we want to show off the scenery too. This is the way to see it with puffball clouds. I don't want to see it with rain clouds. Although when we do get to Poshan, we're going to give it a live weather another try. After a while, that whistle starts to get your ears either get used to it or just say, I ain't going to put up with that no more. Like the P-38 didn't whistle, and neither the P-47 or the P-51 didn't whistle despite the shape of their intakes. This is the same reason the Avro Vulcan makes the same howl that it does. It's pretty much the same design of air intake. Although the Vulcans are much larger for as jet air intake. Take my feet off the pedals for just a minute. Okay, this river we're coming up on is the Chinese Burma border. Traffic. There's a friend. There's Colonel Fork behind us at 10,000 feet. Let's zoom out a little bit on the... There he is. He's about a mile and a half back. So everybody get your passports out. We're entering China. And we're entering China, and then we'll leave China, and then we'll enter China again as the river meanders back and forth. I do love flying through this country. And that's a pretty wide river down there. If you wanted to do a river run, that's a nice, safe river to do one on. Give you plenty of wing room. Don't have to hit people. You can see the mouse. If you can see where my mouse is pointing, you can see the road up on this hill up here because it cuts its way toward Hoshan. That is one curvy road. Better have lots of gas stations, or you better bring lots of your own. Would not want to break down in a vehicle out here. Many of the trucks that traveled this road would carry spare tires along with their cargo. They have 2 or 3 spare truck tires along with a couple of thousand pounds of cargo. Like here off our right wing tip, you can see a little village on this riverside up above the river. So, of course, when you got to talk a lot, you want to get hiccups. This mountain's getting pretty close. 10,000 feet is supposed to be high enough. There he is. Colonel Fork's in a P-51. Which meant give Colonel Fork a round of applause because he managed to get it off the ground and not kill himself. Because it's a lot fussier about the wind on its tail than the Corsair is. The Wildcat is a total kitten compared to the Mustang. Ooh, we're going to get pretty close over the top of this mountain. If you see a flame on one of the top of one of these mountains, but we'll have to get to the city of the horsemen and tell them the signals of Gondor are lit. Put one at the top of that mountain back there, and looks like one at the very top of the mountain about 15 or 20 miles ahead of us. Showing us with 54 miles to go to Hoshan. And at least when it's on the tablet like this, the GTN doesn't start talking to you and tell you you've got traffic that's very close to you. You're supposed to look out the window and see it yourself. Now, just judging by the terrain, I would say they put the road up that valley over there off my left wing. Don't go into the mountains until you have to. Use the terrain as much as possible. With only 50 miles go to Poshan, I'm sure they'll just have to angle toward it as much as they can and hope the terrain favors them. I'm sure we passed, what was it? Nope, Mingxi. We just passed it. That was that city off to our left. Back there, that's the city of Mingxi in that valley. Okay, instrument check. Everything, our oil's good. Fuel pressure is good. Voltmeter is good. One thing that's not reading right is our cylinder head temperature. That's a simulator error, not an aircraft error. They've got so much right, but they just don't have it quite finished yet. Of course, every time they try to get it finished right, the actual rules change and the sim changes itself. down to 65% of our center tank. So we've got plenty of fuel left. And we're 35 out of Poshan, which means sometimes over this mountain range we'll maybe start seeing the valley it's in. All right, let's see. Love the way these mountains just come up and almost touch your aircraft. Okay, we're still showing 30 miles to Poshan. May not be on little nav map or in the sim, but I swear I saw an airport over there in that valley down there. It's long and it's straight. You could probably put an aircraft down there. This is why the movie, the bridge on the River Kwai, although set in Vietnam, you can see why they had to build bridges like that. There's so many rivers here. Like there's a bridge down there. I'm not flying under that bridge. Not with the damage model on. Such a wide river, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the Mekong. Yes, it is the Mekong River. You can see how rugged the area it is that it flows through. See why the roads crisscross their way up the hills so much. So that the trucks wouldn't have to, wouldn't bog down and over torque themselves trying to climb the hills. This is one reason, one area that China is almost like Europe. There's a village just over every hill and in every valley. And in every valley, the villages are only 10 or 12 miles apart, if that much. Hey, we're 13 miles out of Poshan. So just across this ridge line up ahead of us. And from Poshan, we'll head towards the city of Dali, China. There's a goodly sized bridge down there. Would make for an interesting fly under. Looks like it's high enough if they didn't make it solid all the way under it. Colonel Fork's keeping us company all the way to Kunming, I hope, today. Okay, there's the valley of Poshan. There I can see the actual airport at Poshan. We're pointed right at it. Poshan Airport is just called SW, or Z Delta India India. Now the Chinese look like they've clipped all the trees back from their runways, so you don't have any excuse of saying, I clipped a tree. And just as a guess, judging by the revetments and the way the pads are distributed, I'd say that's a military airport. Okay, it's 70 miles to Dali. Then from Dali, where it's on to Yunnan. It's 25 miles to Yunnan, and then 123 miles to Kunming. We've only got about, well, it's saying 42 minutes left. Start actually looking at seeing what the METAR is saying for Kunming. Kunming International Zebra Papa 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 is showing 220 at 4 meters per second. And they're live, which is showing view at 1600 and broken at 4000. Let's give live a try here and see what happens. We can always come back to few clouds. There goes live the little bit of wind we've got kicking in up here. It'll take it a few minutes to decide to refresh the cloudage. Take a close look of Colonel Fork's P-51 up here. And as a multiplayer artifact, it's showing his flaps are down. Oh, now there's a steep river gorge. I'm sure there's power plants and hydroelectric dams all up and down that river. So you watch the LODs fill in the blanks as we get closer to our own aircraft. Just because of the terrain, they had to reroute the Burma Road up through Hoshan, Dali, and Yunnan to get to Kunming because the terrain was too forbidding to actually contemplate constructing the roads through there, or straight from the China border to Kunming. And here we're starting to, you can almost see, we can see why. Look how rugged that is down there. This isn't jungle, folks. This is darn near desert. Talk about deforestation. Considering how green some of these hills behind it are. You go from heavy forested areas to nothing. There's terraced farming terrain down there. One way to farm in areas like this is to terrace the land in steps and grow your crops on the steps. There you can see the road curving back and forth up the mountain before it crosses the valley. I don't blame Colonel Fort for taking the P-51 because, well, when I was laying out the flight plan for this trip, the P-51 was actually the aircraft I was considering. But at the last minute, I changed my mind. It's like, no, I'm not going to bollocks my takeoff. I know I can take off in the Corsair, or at least mostly. This isn't the ME-109 or the P-51. And let's face it, you don't want to embarrass yourself on Twitch with a bad takeoff. My damage model is on. You know when I crash. I do like the way they weathered the paint job on this aircraft. It looks like it's seen more than its fair of little small bird strikes or something has chipped the paint off the leading edges of the tail, wings, and elevators. Okay, flight plan is showing us 32 minutes out of Kunming and 28 miles from Dali. And it's a short trip down to Yunnan. Fuel check. We're not even halfway through our first tank. So it's just barely sipping fuel. Stretching my back just a little bit. Lord knows I'm not a spring chicken anymore. As Indy Jones would say, it's not the years, it's the mileage. You don't believe it? When the next time you're at a air show with a warbird, remember it's over 80 years old, but she still flies. I hope when I'm 80 I can move as well. This is all alluvial soil on these mountains too. This isn't Tennessee's Rocky Top. Look at those. Look at that terraced ground down there. That's tillable land all the way up to the top. Now there's a decision. Is it best to follow the river and stay in the valley? Or is it better, or should you go over the top with the road? Somebody decided to go over the top with a road. Of course, there's another road down in the valley beside the river. Right? Windmills, eek. This whole ridge top is windmills. And this is the city of Dali. On the edge of this lake. Okay. Where's Dali's airport located? It's on this plateau ahead of us. Looks like it's about 200 or 300 feet higher than the city. No. Excuse me. I tried to go down the wrong pipe. Here it's 25 miles to Yunnan. Now I'm going to trust the flight planner that said you won't need to go over 10,000. We'll find out. It'd be tough to get there at 20 miles from landing and go, you should have stayed up at 10,000, buddy. At least till you were over the airport. Although this mountain top off on the right looks like it is a few feet over 10,000. So be careful, Colonel Fork. It's over there, closer to your flight path. Oh, you're clear. Awesome. One of these weeks I'm going to play around and figure out how to tap into the mics on the audio channels on the Two-Tone Murphy's Discord, so we can all kind of chat together on the radio. Dali Airport, which is getting close to us up here. Or Yunnan here. Yunnan its code is BJ. And it is a dirt strip that's 413 feet long. And just right next to it is a long grass runway, which is 6,422 feet long. That airport is Zebra X-Ray India Alpha. We'll see if we can see it from up here. Sing it, Mr. Corsair. That looks like a paved runway, not a grass runway or a dirt runway. Okay, changing course to Kunming. 123 miles away. Oh, I can see the grass runway off our left wing down there. It wouldn't be Microsoft Flight Simulator if there weren't trees around the runway somewhere. I'm at 10,000 feet and I can see trees down there. Looks like they're mostly off to the sides and at the ends, of course. But there should be plenty of runway down there to land on. So our next stop is our true stop of Kunming, the end of the Burma Road. Thousands of Studebaker trucks. Studebakers, Fords, Chevys. There's something they didn't have 80 years ago, a 4-lane highway. So by the calculations of the GPS, we should be there in about 20 minutes. Which is good because my mouth is getting tired of rambling on. That's a lot of erosion damage. But it sure is pretty to look at from up here. Get more terraced farmland. More goofy computer generated areas. Very FSX. We've gotten this far, we might as well just start listening to put some music on. Here now we can watch our mileage trickle down. ETE getting closer and closer. The way the terrain is, we'll have to do a kind of a spiral descent. I don't think we can just start a descent from a 20 or 30 miles out. We'll have to come in on top of the airfield. That's very obvious terracing terrain. It's starting to look like we could probably make the whole run with just this external tank of gas, which is pretty incredible. Although we will switch to a different tank on our descent so that we don't starve the engine on our way down. Need to. Everybody remember to hydrate and get up and stretch your back a little bit. We got to concentrate our landing here in a couple of minutes. I'm going to get up and stretch a second. Got to cut the music for a second to do it. We're still with you, folks. It's just getting up and taking a stretch from our back a minute. Well, I hope that worked. At least our back feels a little bit better. And we can bring the music back. scoot around in our chair a little bit. Get our feet back up on our pedals here in a second. Get close to 50 miles out. .63 to be exact. 10 minutes by the computer. Thank you, Mr. Tablet. We picked up a tailwind a little bit. We're now doing 332. Knots over the ground. Wrong mouse, excuse me. Wrong keyboard. .50 miles out and closing. Brace for it. This is going to be almost a carrier landing, at least a carrier descent. See, Colonel Fork has backed off a little bit for separation, which is an excellent move and a smart move. And the beautiful Mountain Valley City. Here on live, at least the clouds are decently spaced out so far. Keep grabbing the wrong mouse here. If I can type this quickly. All right. Not as bad as some buttons, but it's buttons. I'm going to be stupid. I'm going to leave the music on while when we get up here and start our descent. I'm not sure. The flight's only going to take 6 more minutes, but I don't know how long the descent and landing are going to take. Yikes, the P-51 is catching us again. I like these views where we can keep all of our group in sight. And still get a good view of the terrain. Yeah. Love the names we get. I have a mic. Congratulations. For what it's worth, I have a mic too. Okay, we're approximately 4 minutes from Kunming. The end of our Burma road trip. Kunming, land of the eternal parking lot. At least until they could send them back. Trucks everywhere. We're 15 miles out. We need to start slowing down. Get our feet back on the pedals. Turning our autopilot off at this time. Our aircraft. Well, we're starting our descent. Try to get under these clouds so we can at least see our terrain. Now, Kunming ZPPP is an international airport and does have ILS approaches. Turn the music down a little bit. Pull up a little. We get closer to the airport over here, we'll do an overflight. You can see the tower. This is a horrible time not to load terrain. Hey, ZPP is supposed to be right under us, but my scenery did not load. So we can level up here just a second. See if there's any other local airports. Should be. RQ Kunming is supposed to be 12 miles southwest from here. So we'll swing it 10 miles to the southwest. And hope that that scenery does load. Well, it's at least nice to see you showed up at all, Kapustik. You still out in Hawaii, or have you gone back to Europe yet? Gear coming down anyway. Although we've got 10 miles to go. I'll figure out why that scenery didn't work in a minute off stream. Goes Colonel Fort. He's in the beautiful P-51D. Oh, if you live in Hawaii, good. Bless you. Hawaii is one of my bucket list places. I'll never make it. Double check our heading here. 240, 9 miles. Hey, right there, 240. Watching our airspeed here. We don't want to get too fast for our landing gear. Bringing our RPM and mixture in. I do see an airport up here. Time to angle off a little bit to the north to about 250, getting close to 260, and keep descending. Okay, there's our airport. It's not the airport we intended, but it's the airport we're going to use. Flaps 2. Continue our descent. That has the look of a wartime airfield. Okay, 120 knots. And start our turn in toward the airport. Another notch of flaps. Almost lined up on that runway. There's no bossy here. We don't have any runway lights either. Dropping under 100 knots. We want to. There she's trying to stall on us. Increase our power. Keep watching our airspeed. Keep continuing our descent. We're on final. Okay, under 100 knots, stall warning. A little bit of power, not much. Oh, it is lit. Okay, flare. Cut the power. And we're down. What do we see when we land? DC-3s. Definitely the wrong aircraft. We need P-40s. Let's unlock our tail wheel here. more. DC-3s, DC-6s. There's a B-24 and a Revenant. I think those are DC-6s pretending to be DC-4s. Jeeps. There's a DC-3 and a Revenant. Didn't have the main airport, but I'm glad I had this little airport installed. This looks more like the Flying Tigers headquarters. There's the fuel barrels. An empty Revenant. Should we? I think we should. Now spin her around here. Let's retract our flaps. Set the parking brake. Got our chocks set. Yeah, we don't need the music anymore. As we go through our shutdown procedure here. Parking brake set. We'll turn off our gun sight. Mixture to engine off or to cut off. There's the prop stop. Start shutting off all the electronics. Lights out. Never even used our pitot heat or defroster. Lights off. Radio master off. Instruments off. Magnetos to off. Supercharger off. And we did it on the center drop tank. We didn't even have to change tanks. And the battery, fine. Okay, engines are off. There's Colonel 4 parked in front of the DC-6 over there. And we're going to got our tail wheel locked. Unlock our wings. Takes power to do that. Turn the battery on for a minute. Nope, still can't. Okay. Gotta have power back to do the wing fold. Okay, not gonna fold up back on it. Fold back up for us. We don't need that. I'm gonna cut that off. Cut the fuel back off. If it had worked, we've got our wings set for fold. Left calf, huh? Ah, there they go. Thank you, Colonel Fork, a genius. We can do that while we do this. See if we pumped up. Yeah, we did. There they go. And they have folded, folks. Beautiful. Takes a pro like Colonel Fork to advise us idiots what to do. There's an epic shot. Well, I did. I took a screenshot. So this was I believe this was a freeware airport, Fort Kunming. The Flying Tigers headquarters here, which is, like I said, it's about 10 miles south of the international airport at ZPPP. Ooh, there's a whole line of hump flyers over here. It's moving kind of slow. Let's see. Camera speed a little bit up. Let's try that. There, now we can cover some ground here. So we've got all kinds of Quonset huts and major. How about that? The C-46. I've spent many an hour flying these in older sims. Someday they'll get one for our sim here. Who's this? Oh, we got We've got a B-25H. It's not quite an H. He's got the glass nose, but he's got all the other positions. The forward engineer's turret. Some DC-3s. What else have we got down here on the flight line? Trucks, trucks, trucks. There's your shot. DC-3, C-46. Construction cranes. Look at all the fuel storage tanks. This isn't a bad little scenery. I don't know if it's still available, but I'm glad I picked it up when I did. I need to get an updated version of ZPPP because it didn't show at all, but this sure did. And this is a little treasure. Got DC-6s. This is definitely an end place for the hump. Well, Colonel Fork, you were a genius at filling in those blanks. Some of us don't read the manual like we're supposed to. I'm impressed with this little airfield. And it being lit, it helps. Well, that's the end of our flight tonight. I'm glad you came with us up the Burma Road from Mandalay in Burma to Lashia. We got off the train there and followed the path of the trucks on the Burma Road over the mountains and here to Kunming in China. Lots of the traffic was either being flown on these transports or driving over the Lido Road, which connected to the Burma Road at Wanting at the border of Burma and China. But that's all I've got for this week. If you can find this scenery, I hope you can pick it up and enjoy it. And one of these days, I'm actually going to be brave and tackle the hump. And that's going to be about a 4-hour trip, especially in a DC-3. If I was going to make the trip in a trip over the hump, I'd prefer a C-46. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your flight with us tonight, and we'll see you next Sunday. And thank you for spending your time with us tonight. And basically, God bless and be safe, everybody. Now let's see if we can find somebody to raid here. Remember which mouse to use. We raided Conti last week, so there's not much else on. I'll be glad when Scruffy gets unbusy and can fly again. We're just going to go straight to exit. Good night, folks.